So here's where we left off. Before we go into doing that texture thing, let's move this. Let's kind of set up our scene so it's actually on the floor. So if we just move this table up in front view, um, it's up here, and this table is actually giant right now. I don't know, maybe this is 20 feet tall. So if we go into edit mode, select everything, scaling, it's going to mess up the origin. So what I would do is put the origin where this, we want it in the center. So control, with my left hand I'm holding shift, control, alt. Right, I'm going to hit C. And I want to put origin to 3D cursor because it's in the center. If you want to snap it to the center, snap the cursor to the center, it's shift S. So now I can scale this down and up, and it's going to kind of mess up the scale, but let's just see to get an idea. Our dimensions right now, this doesn't tell us anything, those units. So if you go over here into like our scene, it's called our scene tab, we can set the unit presets. We'll set the length to imperial. So this table is on the z-axis 19 feet tall. So if I scale it down, I want it to be more like 3 feet tall. Okay, so from camera mode, it looks very small. I'm going to hit Shift F, and this is first person like view mode. Okay, I just cut out a part that I didn't think was necessary. So this is what it looks like now in rendered mode. We have our light from behind. Let's move that light forward. I'm top, and from the front, let's move it down, and maybe in, and there. So let's give it a floor to stand on, and this would be good practice for what we did in the previous one with the UV unwrapping. So I'm going to first, let's bring in our node editor on this bottom screen, and then I'm going to hit N to close that properties thing, and I'm going to bring in our UV image editor. Not that we really need it, but so let's add a plane. Okay, and in this material, we'll go over here. Okay, so there's our plane. It's right now, it's just gray. I'm going to give it a new material, and it's still gray because the diffuse material is here. So the easiest way to bring in, you can like bring it into this UV image editor first, and then unwrap it and stuff. But this is kind of a cool way to do it. Just let's see. I think we'll use this for the floor. So the albedo means like the diffuse color. So I'm just clicking and dragging it in. And here it is. So if I click and drag this color into the diffuse, it didn't do exactly what we wanted to do. And the reason for that is it doesn't know how we want that texture to be put onto that object. So go into edit mode. I have everything selected, and I'm going to hit U, unwrap. And our unwrap is over here. If we want to see how it's going to be stretched across that, we can select the picture. It doesn't matter what this picture is. Like, for example, if I change this to this, it doesn't matter because in our material, this this panel thing is plugged into the color. So I'm gonna, and then if I scale this up, a few times, you can even rotate it, and I'm holding control there. And then, yeah, so that's what it looks like from that view. There are ways to make your materials even more realistic. I'm not sure if you're interested in that, but it's pretty cool. Like you can give the floor some gloss, you can give it some bump mapping, so basically it looks like it's more complicated geometry when it's really not. If you're interested in that, I can show you more on that later. So let's go back to our table. We have our one material, right? But let's say we want to do, like, let's say we want these side panels to be a different material. So in object mode, we're going to click New Material, and I want to use this material again because I spent the time, like, connecting things. So let's use that material. But I don't want, you know, my edits in this second material to affect the first one. So I'm going to click this 3 because right now 3 objects are sharing this material. Well, there are technically 3 things, even though it's just this one here. So I'm going to click 3, and let's call this material altered. So now when I make changes to material altered, it won't affect this. Okay. The easiest way to change the color of something is if you're in the node editor, you do shift, you can do color, and I would say hue, saturation, and value. The value kind of slightly changes the color, saturation increases or decreases that, and value increases or decreases the lightness. So if I start doing that, it won't, you won't see a difference because I haven't specified, well, what parts of this object do I want to be that altered material. So I'm going to select those holding shift, and then I'm going to click material altered and click assign. So now if I crank that up to blue, 0.5 is basically the normal, but if I increase the saturation, I can make it more red and decrease the value 0.2, give it a dark woody color. And then what I would do, what maybe I didn't show you yet, but I chose sampling. The default is 128, which gives a pretty nice render. Let's just do 50 for now. And light paths to make your render cleaner. You don't usually need reflective caustics. That's for glass or refractive. So let's just see how this looks. I think it may speed up the render too. Definitely dropping the samples speeds up the render. So now we have a table on a wood floor. Another thing, so back here, let's also to speed up your computer, if you just click border, it's not going to render this stuff. A different way, let's unattach those. A different way is if you, for example, do a mix RGB, which means mix color. So the first color is going to be this picture. The second color is whatever I put into here. So let's say I want it to be green. And if I hit Control Shift Click, I guess my node wrangler isn't on, but right now it's just mixing between those two colors. So full mix means just full green with no texture. Full zero means this image texture. But you can also blend them differently. I can add green to the image, so it's brighten. It's taking that texture and brightening it, or adding green on top of it. I can multiply. So usually if you multiply by 1, it ends up, if I multiply by white, it's going to be the exact same as it would be, because 1 times 1 is, the same thing. If I multiply by 0, it's going to be completely black. It's taking that texture and making it 0. So if you multiply it by a color, and then only multiply it by a percentage of that color, there are just fun ways you can mess around with it. So that's about it. Hope this helped.